The massive view screen in Earth Central Command showed the alien ships clearly. 30 Valaran warships hovered at the edge of the solar system, their sleek purple hulls gleaming against the blackness of space. They had arrived without warning, 6 hours ago, and now everyone waited for their message. Admiral Susan Miller stood with her hands clasped behind her back. At 58, she had seen many strange things during her career with Earth's defense forces, but the Valarans had always been peaceful, if a bit standoffish. Today seemed different. "Admiral, they're broadcasting," said Lieutenant John Baker, his fingers moving quickly across his control panel. Susan nodded. "Put it on the main screen." The image shifted to show Ambassador Zortak of the Valaran Empire. His gray skin looked almost blue under the lights of what Susan recognized as their flagship's command center. His 6 limbs moved in the formal gestures of diplomatic speech, but even humans could see the tension in his movements. "People of Earth and her colonies," Zortak began, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into standard human language. "For 3,000 years, the great species of the galaxy have allowed humans to join our community. We have watched you spread to new worlds. We have let you learn our technologies. We have permitted you to trade with our empires." Susan raised an eyebrow but said nothing. "Today, the tolerance of the Valaran Empire ends," continued Zortak, his voice rising. "Your expansion threatens our security. Your trading practices undermine our economy. Your very presence upsets the balance of power that has kept peace for millennia, before your kind reached the stars." The control room remained silent as the alien continued. "The Valaran Empire hereby declares a state of war against Earth and all human colonies. You have 48 Earth hours to surrender all military vessels and withdraw from planets outside your home system. Failure to comply will result in immediate military action." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the view screen showing the waiting warships once more. For 3 seconds, nobody spoke. Then Lieutenant Baker cleared his throat. "Are they serious?" Susan turned to face her command staff. 20 men and women looked back at her with expressions ranging from confusion to amusement. None showed fear. "Get me the president," she said, calmly, walking to her private communication station. Within moments, President Alan Garcia appeared on her screen. He wore a simple dark suit and looked like he had been awake for some time. "I just watched the transmission, Admiral," he said. "Your assessment?" Susan couldn't help the small smile that formed on her lips. "Permission to laugh, sir." The president's serious expression broke and he chuckled softly. "Granted, Admiral. I nearly did the same when I received the advance notice." "They have no idea, do they?" Susan asked. "Apparently not," replied Garcia. 3,000 years of careful planning and they still think we're the newcomers playing catch-up." Susan nodded. "What's our response, sir?" "Implement Protocol Stonewall. Show them nothing yet. I'll address Earth and the colonies in 1 hour. The Valaran ambassador here is being kept comfortable but isolated." "And the fleet?" President Garcia's eyes showed a hint of mischief that seemed at odds with his gray hair and lined face. "Captain Frank Wilson is standing by with the Quiet Dawn. Tell him he can move when the Valarans do." "Understood, sir." The call ended, and Susan turned back to her staff. "All right, people, you heard the president. Protocol Stonewall. All registered. Defense platforms are to maintain normal operations. No elevated alert status. All visible fleet vessels continue standard patrols. Nothing changes as far as the Valarans can see." "What about evacuation orders for civilians near potential targets?" asked Commander Maria Lopez, looking concerned. Susan shook her head. "No evacuations. We don't want to give them any indication we're taking this seriously." "Because we're not?" John Baker asked with a small grin. Susan allowed herself a rare, full smile. "Oh, we're taking it seriously, Lieutenant, just not in the way they expect." Across the solar system, life continued as normal for most humans. On Mars colony, children went to school. On the moons of Jupiter, mining operations extracted valuable minerals. On Earth, people went to work, ate meals, and watched entertainment. News of the Valaran declaration spread quickly, but the response was surprisingly calm. In a small coffee shop in New Chicago, Paul Harris watched the president's address on his tablet while sipping his morning coffee. "My fellow citizens," said President Garcia, looking directly into the camera. "Today, the Valaran Empire has declared war on humanity. They have demanded our surrender within 48 hours. The president paused, his expression serious but not worried. For 3,000 years, humanity has lived peacefully among the stars. We have been good neighbors and fair trading partners. We have respected the customs and territories of all spacefaring species. This unprovoked declaration by the Valarans is both unexpected and disappointing." Another pause. "I have directed our defense forces to take appropriate measures to protect Earth and our colonies. However, I urge all citizens to continue their normal activities. There is no need for alarm or panic." Paul noticed that several other customers had stopped to watch the address as well. Nobody looked frightened. A few people were even smiling. The old man at the next table caught Paul's eye and winked. "About time," he said quietly. Paul nodded, understanding completely. Like most humans, he knew the official history taught in schools. Humanity had encountered alien life in 2078, discovering they were millennia behind other species in technology and development. For 3,000 years, humans had worked hard to catch up, carefully following the guidance of the older species. But like most humans, Paul also knew the unofficial history. The truth that was passed down in families, mentioned in private conversations but never discussed where aliens might hear. Back in Central Command, Susan Miller watched as the Velaran warships maintained their position. Her secure line beeped, and she answered to see Captain Frank Wilson's face. "Quiet Dawn is in position, Admiral," he reported from his hidden vessel. "They have no idea we're here." "Good," Susan replied. "Maintain stealth protocols. Observe only until they make a move." Frank nodded. "Do you think they really believe they can just demand our surrender like this?" Susan looked at the image of the Valaran ships. "They've spent 3,000 years thinking we're just the new kids trying to keep up. That's exactly what we wanted them to think." "Well," Frank said with a grin, "they're about to learn differently." Susan ended the call and looked out at her command staff, all busy at their stations, all calm and professional. "Now we wait," she said quietly to herself. "And when they move, they'll finally see what humanity has really become." 12 hours had passed since the Valaran declaration of war. On Earth, the United Nations had called an emergency session in New Geneva. Representatives from every human colony and Earth nation gathered in the Grand Hall. Dr. Richard Daniels walked to the podium. The chief historian for the Interspecies Relations Bureau was not used to addressing such large crowds, but today was different. Today, history was being made. "Thank you all for coming," he began, adjusting his glasses. "As you know, the Valaran Empire has declared war on humanity. Their fleet remains at the edge of our solar system, waiting for our surrender." Soft laughter rippled through the assembly. "For those who may not be fully aware of our true situation, I believe a brief history lesson is in order," Richard continued. The large screen behind him lit up, showing images of Earth's first contact with alien life in 2078. The pictures showed humans in primitive spacesuits meeting the elegant, six-limbed Arcturans who had discovered Earth's radio signals and decided to investigate. When we met our galactic neighbors, humanity had barely reached our own moon with regular missions. We had just established the first Mars colony. We were, by all measurements, a young spacefaring species. Richard changed the image to show the Galactic Council chambers, where 17 different alien species maintained diplomatic relations. The Arcturans introduced us to the wider galactic community. We learned that some species had been traveling between stars for over 50,000 years. They had technologies we could barely understand. They had settled hundreds of worlds while we were still working out how to leave our home planet. Another image appeared, showing early human diplomats looking amazed at alien technology. "This is what they saw," Richard said. "This is what we showed them. Wide-eyed humans, eager to learn, grateful for any knowledge shared by the older species." He pressed a button, and the image changed again. This time, it showed massive underground facilities stretching for kilometers beneath the surface of Earth. And this is what we did not show them. Murmurs ran through the audience, though nobody seemed surprised. 3 months before the Arcturans arrived, a scientist named Dr. Lisa Evans made a breakthrough in quantum computing that would have revolutionized human technology. When our observers detected the approaching alien ship, global leaders made an unprecedented decision. Richard's expression became serious. They decided to hide our true potential. On the screen, images showed enormous hidden laboratories, shipyards, and research centers built deep under the surfaces of Earth, Mars, and later, 12 exoplanets. For nearly 3,000 years, we have maintained 2 separate paths of development. The public face of humanity, keeping pace with but never exceeding the technological level our alien neighbors expected of us, and the hidden reality. The screen now displayed advanced ships, weapons, and technologies that looked nothing like the officially registered human vessels. Project Oasis, as it came to be known, allowed us to develop our technology at our natural pace. We studied alien technology when shared with us, but we also pursued our own research paths that sometimes led to solutions the other species had never discovered. In the audience, a young colony representative raised her hand. But why maintain the deception for so long? Surely after a few hundred years we could have revealed ourselves. Richard nodded. A fair question. The answer lies in the history of the galactic community itself. Our intelligence agencies uncovered evidence that at least 3 previous young species had advanced too quickly, frightening the established powers. Those species were contained. The word hung in the air, heavy with meaning. We chose to play the long game, to learn everything we could about our neighbors while never revealing our full capabilities, until we were certain we could defend ourselves if necessary. On Lunar Base Alpha, hidden beneath what aliens knew, as a simple research station, General Patricia Thompson walked through a massive hangar bay. Around her, crews prepared ships that had never been seen by non-human eyes. These vessels bore little resemblance to the bulky, inefficient designs that officially made up Earth's defense fleet. They were sleek, almost predatory in appearance, with hulls that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "General, Captain Wilson reports the Valarans are beginning to move," said her aide, hurrying to keep up with her long strides. Patricia nodded. "Have they entered the solar system proper?" "Yes, ma'am. They're moving toward Mars at sublight speed. They appear to be targeting our colony there first." As expected. Patricia stopped at a viewing platform overlooking the largest vessel in the hangar. Unlike the others, this one was fully crewed and ready for launch. "Get me Captain Frank Wilson." Within seconds, Frank's face appeared on a nearby screen. He looked calm, professional, with a hint of excitement in his eyes that he couldn't quite hide. "Quiet Dawn is tracking them, General," he reported from his hidden ship. "They have no idea we're here." "That's about to change," Patricia said. "The President has authorized Phase 1. You may proceed when ready." Frank's face broke into a smile. "Yes, ma'am, we've been waiting a long time for this. Remember, Captain, demonstrate only what's necessary. We still don't know if the other species will join the Valarans in this foolishness." "Understood." Quiet Dawn out. Back in Central Command, Admiral Susan Miller watched data stream in from sensors throughout the solar system. The Valaran fleet had passed the orbit of Pluto and was moving inward. Their weapons were powered but not yet active. "Admiral," called Lieutenant John Baker, "we're getting distress signals from the Mars colony. The civilian population is asking for instructions." Susan allowed herself a small smile. "Put me through to the colony governor." Governor Sam Lewis appeared on screen, his expression perfectly matching the concern in his voice. Susan had to admire his acting skills. "Admiral, the Valarans will reach Mars orbit in 4 hours. Should we begin evacuations?" Behind him, Susan could see colonists going about their daily business, some pausing to watch the exchange. None looked particularly worried. "No evacuations, Governor," Susan said firmly. "Continue normal operations. Make sure all colonists remain in character until the signal." "Understood, Admiral." Sam lowered his voice. "The access points are ready. The moment we get the signal, we'll show our visitors what a human colony really looks like." After the call ended, Commander Maria Lopez approached Susan's station. Admiral Captain Wilson reports Quiet Dawn is in position. They're ready to make first move. Susan nodded, feeling the weight of 3,000 years of preparation, of secrets kept and plans made. Generations of humans had lived and died maintaining this deception, all for this moment. Tell Captain Wilson, she said, quietly, that it's time to introduce ourselves properly this time. Supreme Commander Vexkar stood on the bridge of the Valaran flagship, the Eternal Glory. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the soft purple lights favored by his species. Around him, crew members monitored displays showing their approach to the human colony on Mars. Status report, he demanded, 4 of his 6 limbs moving in a pattern that indicated impatience. We will reach optimal firing position in 17 minutes, reported his second-in-command. The humans have made no move to intercept. Their defense platforms remain inactive. Vexkar made a clicking sound that translated roughly to satisfaction. As expected, they know they cannot match our technology. Supreme Commander called a sensor operator. We are detecting unusual energy readings near the 4th planet. Source? Unknown. Sir, it does not match any known human signature. Vexkar moved to the sensor station. Show me. The display showed a small area of distorted space approximately 20,000 kilometers from the Valaran fleet. The distortion was subtle, barely detectable even by their advanced sensors. A malfunction, Vexkar decided. Continue approach. The bridge fell silent as the fleet moved forward. Then suddenly, every display on the Eternal Glory flickered and went dark. The gentle hum of the engine stopped. The artificial gravity wavered. Emergency lights activated, bathing the bridge in red. Vexkar felt a moment of genuine fear before discipline reasserted itself. Report, he shouted. All systems are down. His second replied, voice tight with confusion. We're running on emergency power only. The rest of the fleet reports the same. How is this possible? Run diagnostics. Sir, the communications officer called. We're receiving a transmission. It's coming from inside our network. Before Vexkar could respond, every screen on the bridge lit up with the same message. We've been waiting to show you what we can really do. Care for a demonstration? Then a human face appeared on the main view screen. It belonged to a male with short, brown hair and clear blue eyes. He wore a simple dark uniform with no insignia that the Valarans could recognize. This is Captain Frank Wilson of Earth Defense. We've temporarily borrowed control of your fleet. Don't worry, your life support is functioning normally. Vexkar's limbs trembled with rage. What is the meaning of this? How have you hacked our secure systems? The human smiled. It was an expression Valarans had learned to interpret over 3,000 years of interaction. But this smile seemed different, somehow. Less submissive than what they were used to seeing from humans. Hacked is such an outdated term, Frank replied casually. Let's just say we've been inside your systems for about 700 years now. We just never saw a reason to mention it. In the hidden vessel Quiet Dawn, Frank Wilson sat comfortably in the command chair. Around him, his small crew of 5 operated systems that bore little resemblance to the clunky interfaces alien observers had seen on official human ships. They're trying to restart their systems, reported Lieutenant Nancy Flores, monitoring the Valaran fleet's attempts to regain control. Let them have minimal function back, Frank ordered. Enough to talk and see. I want them fully aware of what's happening. Nancy nodded and made a few adjustments to her control panel. Done. They'll have basic communications and sensors, but no weapons, shields, or propulsion. Frank turned to his tactical officer. Are we ready for Phase 2? Yes, sir, the officer replied. Mars colony is standing by. Frank smiled again. Then let's continue the education of our Velaran friends. On the surface of Mars, in what aliens knew as Olympus Colony, Governor Sam Lewis received the signal he had been waiting for. He walked to the center of the main plaza where colonists had gathered, ostensibly concerned about the approaching alien fleet. Attention, everyone, he called out. It's time. Operation Reveal is now active. A cheer went up from the crowd. Sam pressed a sequence on his wrist device, and the ground beneath them began to move. The entire plaza, a circular area nearly a kilometer in diameter, smoothly slid aside, revealing a massive shaft descending deep into the Martian crust. From this opening, platforms began to rise carrying structures, vehicles, and technology that had remained hidden for centuries. Similar openings appeared across the colony as the false surface of human settlement peeled away to reveal the true Mars, a planet not with a few struggling domed habitats, but a fully developed world with cities reaching kilometers below the surface. In orbit, the disabled Valaran fleet could only watch as their sensors registered the transformation below. Where they had expected to find around 50,000 colonists living in simple habitats, they now detected energy readings suggesting a population of over 20 million, with technology far beyond what humans had ever demonstrated publicly. Ani, the eternal glory. Vexkar stared at the sensor readings in disbelief. "Impossible," he whispered. "I assure you it's quite real," Frank Wilson said from the screen. "What you're seeing is the actual Mars colony. What you've been observing for the past few centuries was just a thin facade we maintained for visitors." "Why?" Vexkar demanded, struggling to understand. "Why this deception?" Frank's expression became more serious. "Because when we studied the history of the Galactic Council, we found an interesting pattern. Species that develop too quickly tend to disappear. The Kildari, the Nexians, the Brel, all reached beyond their expected development curve and all were subsequently contained by the older species." Vexkar's limbs went still. Those names were not taught in public history databases. "How do you know about them?" he asked, quietly. "We've had access to your secure archives for quite some time," Frank replied, "which is why we decided to appear less advanced than we were. We showed you what you expected to see. Humans slowly learning, carefully advancing, never threatening the established order." As they spoke, more human ships appeared around the Valaran fleet, unlike the clearly visible transition from hiding to revealing that was happening on Mars. These vessels simply phased into view, as if dropping some kind of perfect cloaking technology. "These ships were always here," Frank explained. "Watching, waiting. We have similar vessels near every major alien world, not as a threat but as insurance." In Earth's Central Command, Admiral Susan Miller received updates from throughout the solar system. Similar reveals were happening on every human colony as the carefully maintained facades fell away to show the true extent of human settlement and technology. "Admiral," Lieutenant Baker called, "the President is asking for an update." Susan switched to the secure channel. "Mr. President, Operation Reveal is proceeding as planned. The Valarans are contained. No shots fired." "President." Garcia nodded. "Excellent. And the other species?" "No movement yet. Our observers report a lot of emergency meetings being called, but no military response so far. Keep me informed. I'll be addressing the Galactic Council in 1 hour." As the call ended, Susan looked at the displays showing the Valaran fleet, surrounded by previously hidden human vessels, ships that had been designed, built, and deployed in complete secrecy. 3,000 years, she murmured to herself. 3,000 years of hiding who we really are. Commander Maria Lopez overheard her. "Was it worth it, Admiral?" Susan watched as Captain Frank Wilson continued his conversation with the Valaran commander, explaining the reality of human advancement that had been concealed for millennia. "Look at their fleet, Commander," Susan replied. "All their weapons, all their technology, neutralized without a single shot fired. Yes, I'd say it was worth it." The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike any in its million-year history. Representatives from 17 spacefaring species gathered in the Great Circular Chamber on neutral territory near the star Proxima Centauri. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a blade. For the first time, the human delegation did not take their usual seats at the lowest tier, reserved for the newest members of the galactic community. Instead, Ambassador Kelly Russell stood at the center of the chamber, the position traditionally held by whoever called the emergency meeting. Behind her, holographic displays showed the immobilized Valaran fleet surrounded by human vessels that had until yesterday been completely unknown to non-human species. Other displays showed the transformed human colonies with hidden cities and technology now revealed across a dozen worlds. Esteemed members of the Council, Kelly began, her voice calm and measured. For 3,000 years, humanity has presented itself as the eager newcomer to galactic society. We limited our visible technology. We controlled our expansion. We shared only what matched your expectations. She paused, looking around the chamber at the representatives of civilizations that had considered themselves far superior to humans for millennia. That ends today. The Arcturan Prime, eldest of the council members, leaned forward on his gravity throne. His translucent skin pulsed with bioluminescent patterns indicating extreme agitation. "Ambassador Russell," he said, his voice translated into perfect human standard, "what is the meaning of this deception? Why has humanity hidden its true capabilities from the Council?" Kelly's expression softened slightly. "It wasn't deception, Honored Prime. It was caution. Our species' history is filled with more violent conflicts than any of yours have experienced. When we met advanced aliens, we needed to ensure we could protect ourselves if necessary." She gestured toward the Valaran ambassador, who sat stiffly at his place. "Today proves our caution was warranted." The chamber erupted in multiple languages as representatives shouted questions and accusations. Kelly waited patiently for the automatic translators to struggle through the overlapping voices. When the noise died down, the Valaran ambassador rose. "How?" he asked simply. "How did humans advance so quickly? It defies all known development patterns." Dr. Richard Daniels stepped forward to join Kelly at the center. As Earth's foremost historian, he had spent decades studying both human and alien historical records. "We didn't advance quickly," he explained. "At least not from our perspective. Earth was already approaching what we call a technological singularity before first contact. When we met the Arcturans, we were perhaps 50 years from independently discovering many of the breakthroughs your species had achieved over thousands of years." He activated a holographic display showing Earth's technology development curve compared to other species. Most spacefaring races follow a similar pattern, with technology advancing incrementally over very long periods. Humanity's curve is different, exponential rather than linear. By the time we reached space, our rate of advancement was already accelerating dramatically. The representatives murmured among themselves as they studied the graphs. Rather than reveal this accelerated pattern, which your history suggested often led to conflict with upstart species, we created a two-track civilization. One visible, matching your expected development curve. One hidden, advancing at our natural pace. In the heart of New Geneva on Earth, President Alan Garcia prepared to address the Council remotely. His advisors surrounded him, providing last-minute updates on the reactions of various alien governments. "The Trilaxians have mobilized their defense fleet," reported the Secretary of Defense. "But they're maintaining position within their own system. The Arcturans are calling for calm," added the Foreign Secretary. "They seem more interested in understanding what happened than in taking hostile action." Garcia nodded, straightening his tie. "And the Valarans? Their leadership is in chaos. The failed attack and the revelation of our true capabilities have triggered something close to a political crisis." "Good," Garcia said simply. "Let's proceed." The president's image appeared in the council chamber, projected at a size equal to the other representatives. Another break from tradition, where younger species were displayed at smaller scales. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," he began, "I am President Alan Garcia of Earth. For 3 millennia, humans have been part of this community while hiding our true nature. Today, I want to make one thing absolutely clear. We don't want war. We never have." He paused, looking directly at the Valaran ambassador. "What we want is honesty. What we want is to be treated as equals, not as children to be guided and controlled. What we want is to finally be ourselves." On Mars Colony, where the revelation had begun, citizens openly celebrated in the streets of the now exposed underground cities. Children marveled at being able to walk outside without pretending their homes were smaller and less advanced than they really were. 9-year-old Billy Lee stood with his father, watching as huge structures continued to rise from below the surface. "Dad, why did we have to hide everything before?" he asked. Henry Lee knelt beside his son. "Because sometimes people get scared when they meet someone different. The aliens weren't ready to see how fast humans can learn and build things. But they're not scared now." Henry looked up at the sky, where the news networks were showing the Galactic Council meeting in progress. "Some of them probably are scared," he admitted. "But now they know we could have hurt them at any time during the last few thousand years, and we chose not to. That makes a difference." In orbit around Mars, Captain Frank Wilson continued his conversation with Supreme Commander Vexcar aboard the disabled Velaron flagship. "Your civilization is built on lies," Vexcar accused, his translator struggling to convey the depth of his outrage. Frank shook his head. "No, our civilization is built on caution. There's a difference. You could have revealed yourselves centuries ago. Why now?" "Because you gave us no choice," Frank replied. "You declared war. You moved against our worlds. We held back as long as we could, hoping for true partnership rather than the patronizing relationship we've endured." He gestured to a nearby screen showing the ongoing council meeting. "Look at that. For the first time, humans are speaking as equals in the council. Not as students, not as newcomers, as equals." Vexacar's limbs moved in a gesture of grudging acknowledgement. "And what happens to my fleet? To my crew?" "Nothing," Frank said simply. "Once certain diplomatic arrangements are made, you'll be free to return home. Your ships will be restored to full function. No one has been harmed and no one will be." The Velaran commander seemed taken aback. "You would just let us go?" "Of course. We're not conquerors, Commander Vexacar. We never have been. We just want to live in peace. Real peace, not peace built on deception and fear." Back in Earth's Central Command, Admiral Susan Miller watched as reports came in from human outposts throughout the galaxy. From hidden observation posts near every major alien homeworld, human operators confirmed no large-scale military responses were underway. "It seems most species are choosing caution over confrontation," noted Commander Maria Lopez. Susan nodded. "As we predicted, they're reassessing everything they thought they knew about us." "And the Velarans?" "Still contained. No casualties on either side." Susan smiled slightly. "I think that surprises them more than anything, that we could have destroyed their fleet but chose not to." Maria looked thoughtful. 3,000 years of hiding who we really are. That's a long time to wear a mask." "Yes," Susan agreed, watching as President Garcia continued addressing the council. "But something tells me we're going to enjoy being ourselves for a change." 1 month after what humans had begun calling the Big Reveal, the galaxy was still adjusting to the new reality. The Velaran Empire had formally withdrawn its declaration of war and was engaged in tense but productive negotiations with Earth's diplomatic corps. In a small conference room at the United Nations headquarters in New Geneva, Admiral Susan Miller sat across from Supreme Commander Vexcar. It was their first face-to-face meeting since the failed Velaran attack. "Your people hide their true nature well," the Velaran admitted. His 6 limbs arranged in what Susan had learned was a posture of respectful attention. "We had no idea." Susan shrugged. "Humans have always been good at keeping secrets when necessary, even from each other." "Your own population didn't know?" "Most knew something," Susan explained. "The general idea that we were more advanced than we showed aliens was common knowledge, but the full extent, the hidden cities, the stealth fleets, those details were kept to those who needed to know." Vexacar's translator hummed as he made a series of clicking sounds. "I find it hard to believe that humans could maintain such a secret for 3,000 years. Our species struggles to keep military plans confidential for a single generation." Susan smiled. "That's because your society values information sharing. Ours has a long history of classified projects. We're pretty good at keeping things under wraps when we need to." Across the solar system and beyond, humanity was finally integrating its 2 technological tracks. Vessels that had remained hidden for centuries now patrolled openly. Colonists revealed cities that had been shielded from observation. Trade routes that had been carefully disguised now operated in the open. On Mars Colony, 9-year-old Billy Lee and his classmates were having their first official field trip to the surface since the revelation. Their teacher, Mrs. Green, led them to a viewing platform overlooking what had once been called Olympus Colony, the small, supposedly struggling settlement that aliens had been allowed to observe. Before the big reveal, only this small area was visible to visitors, Mrs. Green explained, pointing to a cluster of simple domes and buildings. The rest of our city remained hidden underground. "Did you have to hide too, Mrs. Green?" asked a little girl at the front of the group. The teacher nodded. "When I was your age, we all learned 2 sets of lessons. One was about how to act if aliens visited. We practiced looking less advanced than we really were." "Like playing pretend?" Billy asked. "Exactly like playing pretend. But now we don't have to pretend anymore." The children cheered, their voices carrying across the Martian landscape that was rapidly transforming as more hidden structures rose to the surface. In Earth orbit, the first official joint technology exchange was taking place aboard the International Cooperation Station. Scientists from 7 alien species worked alongside human researchers, examining technologies that each side had developed independently. Dr. Olivia Carter, Earth's leading quantum physicist, watched as an Arcturan engineer, studied a human-designed gravity manipulation device. "This approach never occurred to our scientists," the Arcturan admitted, his translucent skin glowing with patterns of amazement. "We've been using field manipulation for 50,000 years, but your method is entirely different." "That's the benefit of parallel development," Olivia replied. "We started from different first principles. We asked different questions, and found different answers," the Arcturan finished. "Perhaps there is something to be said for your species' unusual development pattern. Across the galaxy, the revelation of humanity's true capabilities had caused ripples that continued to spread. Some species responded with fear, others with fascination. Trade agreements were being hastily revised. Military alliances were being reconsidered. In the heart of Velaran space, Ambassador Kelly Russell finalized the new peace treaty with the Velaran Emperor himself. The massive being towered over her, his exoskeleton decorated with the symbols of 1,000 years of rule. 3,000 years, the Emperor said slowly. 3,000 years you have watched us, studied us, while pretending to be less than you are, Kelly nodded. We believed it necessary for our survival. And now we hope it's no longer necessary. This treaty acknowledges humanity's true capabilities and establishes protocols to prevent future misunderstandings. It recognizes our right to develop at our own pace without interference. The Emperor's facial tentacles twisted in what Kelly had learned was an expression of reluctant agreement. "It shall be as written," he declared, pressing a limb against the document to leave his genetic signature. "But I must ask, Ambassador, is there anything else your species is hiding?" Kelly's smile widened just a fraction. "That would be telling, wouldn't it?" On Earth, President Garcia met with his cabinet to discuss the ongoing transition. Reports from across human space showed the integration proceeding smoothly, with only minor incidents as aliens adjusted to the new reality. "The Arcturans have formally requested a full technology exchange program," reported the science minister. "They seem more fascinated than threatened by our development path." "The Trilaxians remain cautious," added the defense secretary. "Their fleet is still at heightened alert, but they've made no aggressive moves," Garcia nodded. "And the Velarans? The peace treaty has been signed. Their fleet has returned home. Our observers report significant political upheaval as they adjust to the new balance of power." "Good," the president said simply. "After 3,000 years, I'd say phase 1 of our emergence has been successful." The foreign secretary looked up sharply. "Phase 1, sir?" Garcia smiled. "Just a figure of speech." Later that evening, the president stood alone on the balcony of the White House, looking up at the stars. So many of them now held human colonies, some known to aliens, others still hidden just in case. His secure communication device chimed. It was Admiral Susan Miller, Mr. President, the Arcturan Prime has formally requested access to Jupiter Station. Garcia frowned. Jupiter Station was one of the few remaining human facilities that had not been revealed in the big reveal. Officially, it didn't exist. Interesting, he said. How did they learn about it? They claim to have detected unusual energy signatures during their scientific survey of our system. They're being very polite about it. The president considered for a moment. Tell them Jupiter Station is a private research facility. We'd be happy to arrange a visit next year, after the current projects are complete. Yes, sir. And the other matter? Garcia looked back up at the stars. Tell Project Horizon they can proceed with Phase 2. Slowly, carefully. Let's not shock our new friends too much all at once. Understood, Mr. President. As the call ended, Garcia smiled to himself. 3,000 years ago, humanity had decided to hide its true nature from the galaxy. That deception had ended, but some secrets were still worth keeping. At least for now. After all, as the Valarans had just learned the hard way, it never hurt to keep a few surprises in reserve.